Hello and welcome back to a Game of Thrones mod for Crusader Kings 2. Now somebody asked that we do a recap video, and it is 100 episodes, and I did say I would do one all the way back when we were first playing as Raymond, and I feel that this is a good point to do it. This is a chance for me to kind of, I don't know, show new people where we are with the campaign, and show old people kind of how we got there if they've forgotten. So, let's start with Raymond. Raymond Fossoway broke away from the Red Apple Fossoways when his cousin Stefan had a disagreement at the tourney, and basically there was a pretty large disagreement. Some princes died, but the reasons are not important at this point. At this point, the houses were separated, and he broke away. Now the rest of his life was mostly spent attending tourneys, not doing very well, mostly trying to start up his new branch, get a couple of children and train them well. So we're going to go down to the children. We're also going to close a couple of these just now. He had 6 children. He had Melora, Julia, Amena, Duncan, Garth and Meg, although Duncan did die stillborn. He was our first son, and he was named after Raymond's friend Duncan the Tall, and that will come into play in just a little bit. So, of his children, 2 were married, 2 had children that carried the Fossoway line, and 2 did not. Julia and Amena did not follow the Fossoway line, and they were in House Conklin and House Arryn respectively, and that is where we're going to finish following them. Melora also married an Arryn, married Mathis of the Great Hawk, but this Fossoway line it actually lasted a very long time. It went quite far down, and we'll follow it in just a bit. We're going to actually close a couple of these, just so we're only following one generation at a time. And then we had Garth. Garth was our next character, and Garth was a very proud man. He was a very stubborn man, you could say, and he was very much of a too proud for his own good, basically. Let me close a couple of these. And then he had 4 sons. He had 2 sons, 2 daughters. And this succession did not go very well. What happened here was everything was looking good for Raymond to come in charge. Raymond was around. He was the better of the. He was the son who we wanted to be in charge. Simon was a couple of years younger than him, I believe. But Raymond was looking all good until his sister murdered him, which wasn't very good, because then Garth, being a little bit, I think he was a bit wroth, he then imprisoned the sister, and she died in the dungeons. So that was 2 children down. Amena did, however, have 2 children before then, 2 from House Mallister, who were potentially in line to inherit, but they didn't end up inheriting. They weren't murdered by us, right? No. That's fine. I wasn't just wondering whether I forgot that. And Simon was actually killed in personal combat when he was commander of the Iron Throne's armies. So things were not looking good. However, before Simon died, he had a couple of children. First one being Harlan, the second one being Tanya. Now, Harlan actually managed to inherit. And Harlan's reign, he started the proper expansion. I mean, Garth took a High Lordship for his expansion. Harlan started taking stuff outside the base High Lordship. He started taking bits of land from the Ullers, bits of land from the Ashfords. He just started expanding the realm. And that was carried on by one of his children. But we're first going to look at Tanya. Tanya had a lot of children. I believe he was also married matrilineally. So that was another Fossoway line. We're also going to go down this side as well, just before we move too far on. We had Othar's line, and Othar's line ended at Arwen, so we're going to stop looking at that. And we had Colin. Colin was an educator for Harlan, and this is kind of the second line of the Fossoways, which actually lasted quite a long time. It was a point when we were playing as Garth, we were considering making Colin our heir instead of making Harlan our heir. And the reason we were doing that is because it looked like this line, if Harlan did not have children, was going to go down very, very badly. Because if Harlan didn't have children, it would have actually passed over to Amena. I mean, Tanya did have children as well, who were all Fossoways, but it was this was the first kind of problem area that we were seeing. Like, this was the first time that we were actually going to have to, work out how to keep the series going. Now, if we go down to Harlan's children, we'll close... Well, we'll leave Tanya's open for now, and we'll also open Colin's. Colin's didn't really go anywhere either. Harlan had 4 children. He had Lucia, Duncan, Emera, and Asara. Emera and Asara, I believe, don't really go anywhere. They marry into House Staunton and House Middlebury, respectively. But Duncan, he took over from Harlan originally. And Duncan was an awful ruler. He was just absolutely awful at ruling. Everybody hated him. He imprisoned people who disagreed with him. And he just kind of... he just made an enemy of everyone. So eventually all of his vassals banded together, and they decided that they would rather have Lucia in charge. And then we got Lucia the Spider. Lucia the Spider being a very intriguing kind of character, and she was very much of a sneaky manner. Didn't actually do that many killings, just kind of spyings and that sort of thing. She also expanded the realm in her own way, and that was pretty cool. We're going to go down one more generation of Fossaways. So we had Ector Fossoway, had many children. Quentin Fossoway also had many children. And Maribold Fossoway had lots and lots of children. Although, one of them was from House Lothar, which is interesting. Oh, that's actually a bastard house. Okay. Tanya had Melissa, who had children. They were all from House Dane. We had Simon, who had a child of Leah, who's control of Yelshar. We had Alla, who had someone in House Virel. And we had Fruilla, who had children in House Blackmont. From the main line, Imara. Oh, we already did that one. Main line, Lucia had 5 children. She had Mansa, Marissa, Imara, Janie, and Harlan. Now, the first 3 children were in her first marriage to Aceret. However, when we took over, we then killed her. Actually, I think we did kill her first husband, and then married someone else. I've completely forgotten who, so we could actually cheat and just sneak out here and have a quick look. We married Harlan Hill. Yes, Harlan Hill. He was interesting in it because he did the worst revolt for the Iron Throne ever. He had a claim on the Iron Throne, and he basically got drunk in Bravos and never actually came over the water and just kind of lost when he eventually made it over. It was very disappointing, but yes, that was how his line went. But his children were a little bit more successful. We eventually became Harlan, who was he was very content. He was our first content character, and he basically spent most of his realm as a scholar, keeping the realm together, just kind of, well, basically just resting and not really doing an awful lot in terms of expansion. But the realm became a little bit more stable under his rule. Not a lot to really say about him. Janie married another Aaron, and that was her second connection to the Aarons, and then they had a lot of children. They're all very, very important and went on to do important things, but we don't need to worry about them at all, really. This line of the Fossaways, I believe this might be the end of it. One married into Blackbar, one married into House Reading, one married into House Toland, and also married into House Fossoway, which, by the way, I think that's where our Fossoway connection we were looking for a couple of maybe 10 episodes ago was, in case you were wondering. This is where some of the Fossaways got claims on our titles later. We got Cerise of House Hawthorne. Actually, Meros was still around, I believe, when in the next a couple of characters down, unless it's a different Meros. There are a lot of Meros Fossaways. Elise married into House Hawthorne, and Michelle married into House Piper. Right, we're going to close all of Melora's stuff now, because we have looked at that house. And we're going to jump over to this line, which I also believe ends soon. So we had Leah, and she was in charge of Yelshar, and she married into House Lannister, which is why the Lannisters are now in charge of Yelshar. And we can now close Tanya's line. Yeah, that's the only ones we can shut. Right, now we're going to go down Harlan. Harlan had 5 children. He had Ellen, Harlan, Samwell, Ronald, and Tanya. Ellen married into House Buckwell, nothing more to say. Harlan was, yeah, he died at age 0 from, it says it's grievous disfigurement, but I believe was stillborn. was what it originally said. Samuel was the character we played as, and he greatly expanded the realm. He took over a couple of stuff, and he really started the push on the Red Fossaways. And we also had Ronald, who didn't really do very much, and Tanya, who died of the dreaded plague, which took actually quite a lot of people. Samuel also died of a period of illness, I believe not too long after his sister. Yeah, 4 years after. And then the realm went to his only child, Lucia, that's who we're playing as now. Now we're going to look at Lucia's children quickly. Lucia has 4 children. She has Shirel, John, Ellen, and Lucia. Originally, John was looking like he was going to be a fantastic ruler for us. However, he just kind of was murdered by GoT Fossoway. Don't worry, GoT Fossoway is now dead. Lucia is very much the murdering type right now. We also had Shirel, who inherited from Lucia's first husband, inherited the lordship of Castamere. I don't remember, did we kill our first husband, or did he just die naturally? He died in Master Aegon of Pikekill's dungeons, and I believe that was our first kill. Aegon of Pikekill, or at least he was one of the first. So she's now our heir, and that would mean that she will inherit a whole bunch when she comes into power. And Lucia's kind of our backup. Now Shirel has many children as well. Ellen, Tyranny, Gareth, Sabrina, and Taya. And she actually married matrilineally as well, which means that Tyrion is the next male heir in our kind of line. So it would actually go, it would be Shirel, and then our next heir is Tyrion. And Ellen married into House Ashford. And that's the kind of end of our very quick look at the Fossoway house. Now, this wouldn't be a proper recap if we didn't actually have a look at the current realm as it is now. So that's what we're going to do. Yes, the map is very over there because it keeps moving while you're in the background. So, right. Let's have a look at the current realm and see how it's going. The realm has actually just entered into a state of war. The North has declared independence from the Iron Throne, but by default, the Iron Throne is currently the Reach, the Westlands, Dorne, Stormlands, which extends over here, Myr, and Pentos, and I believe Tyrosh as well. And all of that is underneath the Iron Throne. The Trident and the Mountain Vale are at war, and, are they actually at war right this very second? They are not at war right this very second, but they're at war quite often, and that is basically the state of things. They're very interconnected in terms of their houses, which means there are a lot of reasons to declare war, and I believe they have a blood feud going on. If we actually have a quick look here, blood feuds. Yes, there is a blood feud between the Lannisters and the Tullys. The Lannisters took control of the Westlands after a long time of not being in control. They were in control at the start, and then they had like 200 years of not being in control. Now they're back in control because of our daughter, I believe, pressed the claim to put that, and we went and helped. And on the other side, we had House Arryn and Tully are also in a blood feud. So they're in charge of the Trident and Mountain Vale, and they're basically going to be at war constantly. Right, what else have we got? Well, I suppose we can look at what houses are in charge of things, because they're not necessarily normal stuff. Well, the Night's Watch is gone. It's pretty much controlled by wildlings, but there doesn't appear to be winter anywhere, so we don't need to worry about that. The North is still controlled by the Starks. We've been controlled by the Starks a very long time. There were a lot of Starks, and there still are a lot of Starks, so the North will be pretty much controlled by them for the sort of foreseeable future. We have the Iron Island, controlled by the Harlaws. I believe it's been controlled by the Harlaws for a while, although the previous one was the Greyjoy. And it kind of switches between a couple of them, but they are independent as they kind of want to be, and they just kind of raid every so often. We have the Mountain Vale, controlled by the Kennings, actually. I forgot, I believe it's like a generation or two back that it was controlled by the Arryns, but the Kennings did a war to take it over. So actually maybe the Mountain Vale and the Trident aren't going to be at war as much as I thought they would be. But they're at war a reasonable amount. The Trident is controlled by the Tullys, and they recently had the previous ruler imprisoned by the Westlands and murdered. So that's they've got a new weak person in charge, and not a lot of people actually in line. They're still Tullys, but not a lot actually from his siblings or anything. There is just like, next one is completely different line of Tullys, so he might not have long to live. Is also a it's matrilineal marriage. I was going to say it's also married, but it's matrilineal marriage. It doesn't really matter. Westland's controlled by the Lannisters. We already had a look at that. The Reach is controlled by the Tyrells. Now, the Tyrells weren't always... The Tyrells actually became in charge of the Iron Throne at one point through some mysterious ways. But they are now back in charge of the Reach, and it seems like they're going to be in charge of the Reach for a very long time. The Stormlands are controlled by the Lonmouths. This switched hands so many times that it was hard to count. I believe it first started switching hands when there was one of the Baratheons who managed to be on the Iron Throne had all of their children disinherited, and that just made everything go crazy. So that was fun. And Dorne is controlled by House Illyrian, which is yeah, that also went interesting. It was also controlled by one of the houses that controlled the Iron Throne. So when things started going crazy with the Iron Throne, things started going crazy with Dorne, but now it's just controlled by one of the, I believe, default Dornish houses. And the Iron Throne, as I said, went crazy. It is controlled by the Marbrins, taken over by the brother, I believe, of Lady Lucia the First, the Spider's husband, which is why he had the war to try and take over the Iron Throne. But yeah, that's pretty much where the Marbrins came in charge, and the Marbrins have been in charge for a reasonable amount of time, although I don't believe it's been the Marbrins all the... No, it's been Marbrins all the way. Yeah, for a reasonable amount. Actually, quite a long time. Yeah, Lord Samwell was the first, I think? Maybe? It was a... Yeah, Lord Samwell was the first. No. King Theomore was the first, and there's Harlan Hill, our great-grandfather. Yeah. I think he might have had the claim, maybe? And then it got passed down? I don't know. Anyway. I seem to remember him. Over here, I suppose we should look. Tyrosh is controlled by the Echocorg, Summer Gods. Myr, controlled by Rylor and the Of Myr dynasty. Fantastic naming system. It's very literal. What's this? There's Leng, which has a God Emperor. Isn't Leng all the way over here or something? Yeah, here's Leng. But Leng is also over here. I don't know why they're there, but that wasn't who I was originally looking for. I never actually noticed that we have a giant Temo just over everything, because it's the Dothraki. Where Pentos is controlled by Lonmouths. Yeah, I knew it was worth looking at them again. And that's all the people in the Iron Throne. Not really anyone else I feel that we need to look at right now. But yeah, that's the short recap. I don't know how short it was, but I don't think it was done the best it could have been done. But I hope you still enjoyed it. And I thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.